It's starting to make me feel like I should listen to the whole record. It's that good. Hello there and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reacting and analyzing to Rod Stewart, that guy that has been around since we were born, well, at least in my case, because I happened to be introduced to his music by my mother, because she happens to like his stuff quite a lot, and I happen to be kind of not disgusted by it, but I got fed up because she was playing Rod Stewart basically every freaking day of my childhood. And then when I grew up, I discovered that he was actually a very good musician, has plenty of fantastic tracks, and his career, well, spans many genres. And today we're going to be analyzing one of his most popular tracks, which is coming from the album Blondes Have More Fun. And the track in question is, of course, Do You Think I'm Sexy? So, one of those tracks that probably you have heard before, and probably it might be similar to my story because your mother might have loved this track. So, in this video, we're going to be analyzing it, and you'll see that it's way better than you might remember. So, if this is your jam, let's rock and roll. But before we go, if this is your first time on the channel, I welcome you, because in here we analyze the music that we love from the perspective of an active musician, a professional music producer, but using language that everybody can understand in a way to expand our knowledge when it comes to music production, songwriting, and music appreciation. With that being said, let's rock and roll. Here we go. So here we go. Do You Think I'm Sexy by Rod Stewart. Sorry for interrupting, but you know the drill. First and foremost, I gotta point out at the incredibly intelligent orchestration that this track has. I didn't remember it being this how can I put it? How can I like intricate? Because it has plenty of different layers, different instruments playing a tandem, but all of them supporting each other rather than clashing. For example, the first one I would like to point out is the use of the bass, because you saw that I was pointing out it quite a bit while I was playing to it, because it's fantastic. The bass line is excellent. If you happen to know who the bass player for this particular recording is, let me know in the comment section down below. But the point that I want to make is this. Did you notice that at certain points, particularly during the chorus and after the chorus finished, and they brought back the interesting string arrangement / synthesizer, there is something that happens with the low end. It becomes bigger, meaner, kind of ominous to a certain degree. It's because they added an extra layer of low end, not coming out of the bass, but coming from something like this. A synthesizer. In this case, I think they used a Moog. It sounds quite similar, not to this one in particular. This is a Mark 32, for those of you who might be interested. But it's similar in design, and I think they used something similar to the Mini Moog, the one that you got in front of you, allegedly, right now. And that's a synthesizer that was very popular back then, still is. It's a very beautiful sounding synth. And it has this particular gritty tone to it. It's excellent for writing and producing bass lines. And in this case, you will hear that effect being used later on. And it's not playing the exact same pattern as the bass. It's actually just holding a legato, which is just this. Okay? And this means that they are playing, or the keyboard player was playing the exact same note, but not in the exact same sequence as the bass, adding an extra layer of power and punch to the mix. Once we delve into analyzing the mix, you'll see what I mean by that. But keep in mind that the sound of the mix is quite punchy. Also, the rest of the instruments are fantastic. For example, the guitars is excellent. I didn't remember the track being this well crafted. The guitar tone is very good, and also pay attention to how they use the stereo field, which stands for the separation between the left and the right channels of your headphones or speaker set. How they are spreading the use of the electric guitar from one side to the other in different sections, because you'll see that once the verse is playing, they put the guitar on the left, and when the chorus happens, it's on the right. But also, you got the electric piano in the background covering the stereo field beautifully. Excellent. The drums, punchy, interesting, fun, and get the job done. And they are kind of heavier sounding than I remember as well. Interesting. And also the string arrangement, the one that plays the super memorable part, I also think is supported by a synthesizer. A completely different synth. I can't tell exactly which synth is being used in this one because it's mixed very well with the rest of the strings, but it might be a string machine, something similar to that one. That's a Krummer Performer, which is also an old piece for that particular era, and it has a beautiful tone to it, and it sounds like strings arrangement, but it fails miserably. Also, you got it in front of you. So, with that being said, let's continue listening to this track, and once I talk to you again, we're going to be discussing the sound of the mix. Here we go. Sorry for interrupting. This was badass. I don't know why I didn't remember this part. Probably because I am super familiar with the radio edit rather than the one coming out of the record. Because I happen to like Rod Stewart style of music quite a lot, but I don't consider myself a huge fan, but I have huge respect for the guy. So this impressed me, being very frank, because I was expecting the return to the chorus, which is what happens in the radio edit. But this is a fantastic version. I actually consider this one to be actually starting to make me feel like I should listen to the whole record. It's that good. But now, what should I say before we delve into the mix? This section was fantastic. I can imagine it being used in the live shows to extend the track and to add more fun to the whole experience, because this being kind of a dance-like track, still retaining plenty of rock and roll elements, makes it super interesting. It's a super weird mix that somehow works. But let's take a look at the screen, because let's analyze the mix. Over here we got our tool, Decibel, that you've been watching for the entirety of this analysis since the beginning. And for those of you familiar with, well, you know what this is, but for those of you who are not, let me introduce you to it. In here we got two different analyzers. The first one over here is the one we use to analyze the loudness of each of the frequencies that are part of the frequency range that we can hear as human beings. It starts in at 20 hertz, which is the lowest we can hear, all the way down to 20,000 hertz, the highest we can hear. Under 20, subsonic; above 20, supersonic, okay? And this white line represents the loudness of each of those frequencies at their highest point. And as you can see here, clearly plenty of low end. And remember when I told you or pointed your attention towards the effect the synthesizer used on the bass is due to that. Because the bass is already kind of punchy, but it's not that low endy. And it works properly with the sound of the kick drum. But once they bring in the synthesizer, you see this gigantic bump, especially in this region. This is getting closer to the sub level. Subsonic, not subsonic, but the area on which we consider to be the subs, okay? And it's super low end that it's difficult to reproduce by smaller drivers, for example, earbuds. But here in the studio, I'm rocking it. I'm rocking the track to a proper speaker set, and I can tell you that the sound of the low end is fantastic. It's beautiful, it's rounded, and also, well, I can imagine that over your end, even if you are rocking smaller headphones such as these pieces of the AirPods, you will be able to hear properly because the low end is properly mixed. It's super contained and projected. Amazing. And remember that this is a mix from the late 70s. Also, look at this. The low end, in comparison to the rest of the harmonic content or frequency range, to be more precise, is way higher by orders of magnitude. This is probably the first time I see this in this channel. Not because it's uncommon, it's because it hasn't happened yet. And what does that mean for you? This is where most of the information, we're talking about guitars, vocals, piano, everything that is not the kick, bass, and synthesizers, most of their information will be contained in this area. This is the mid-range. You got the low mids and the high mids over here, and then you got the high end over there. And yeah, I know it's kind of not necessarily distributed in a way that makes sense, but it's because the most important element in music is usually here. Is this section. The highs is where most of the shrieky, shouty, annoying aspects of recorded sounds tend to be found. For example, if you're talking to a very terrible old phone from the 80s, okay, a landline phone, it was common for lesser quality phones to have a very, very bad speaker, and it usually happened to be kind of shouty and annoying. That's due to the fact that it was mostly dealing with this frequency range rather than the rest, okay? And this is very interesting to me because the mix, even though it's super low heavy, it feels proper. It's not like a dance track from much modern times. For example, I don't know, Tiesto, which you can feel the bass and the kick drum kicking gigantically big. In this case, we get a very much mild sound, but very well presented. But this bump in the low end, I can imagine it being kind of revolutionary at the time this being released, because this is not common for records from this era. Very interesting. If you happen to be one of those bad boys and girls who happen to be alive during this period, well, first and foremost, I envy you because I would have loved being there when this was a thing. And also, please let me know what was your reaction when you listened to this track for the first time. Now, let's take a look at the screen once again. Over here, we got the second section of our analyzer, which is the dynamic range analyzer. And in here, we see how loud the track has been throughout time. This blue blob represents the loudness of the track. And it's important because the correlation between the loudest and the quietest part in any form of music is what is considered to be the dynamic range. And that's important due to the fact that when something is quiet, it's more intimate. When something is louder, it's more exciting. Okay? So we got this. The beginning is already loud, but it gets louder. And then the verse. This is the introduction to the vocals. And then this is clearly the first chorus. And see how much it grew in intensity. The volume is much more present. That's a very traditional trick when it comes to mixing, because when you are mixing, for example, the final version of the track, you control everything with one of these faders, okay, the master fader. And you can simply push it louder, just a tiny bit, during the choruses or the exciting parts, because that way the listener will be, okay, you're going to bob your head to the track because it's starting to feel more exciting. and then you drag it back during the verses so you can keep the dynamic range interesting, okay? And in this case, we got a good example of it, but look at what happens later. Damn! The track is just ramping up in volume. It's just getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. I don't know if this record was one of the first records to be as loud as it is, because this is insane compared to the beginning. And that's, well, one of the reasons why the track feels that it grows and it becomes more interesting, much more exciting, and something that you want to keep listening to from start to finish. So, very, very cool. I like this kind of mixing approach because it keeps the music feel alive, if that makes sense to you. Okay, let's finish off the track. And before we do that, if you are enjoying this video, please let me know by clicking on the like button underneath and also leaving a comment, because that helps us a lot. You don't know how much. And for you, it's basically for free. So thank you for doing it. Let's continue. Here we go.
Hey, wake up, dawn, 'cause all the birds are singing. Two total strangers, but that ain't what they're thinking. Outside it's cold, misty and it's raining. They got each other, neither one's complaining. He says, I'm sorry, but I'm out of milk and coffee. Never mind sugar, we can watch the only movie. If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come on, sugar, let me know. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Come on, honey, tell me so. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Come on, sugar, let me know. If you really, really need me, just let me know. Just reach out and touch me. If you really want me, just reach out and touch me. Come on, sugar, let me know. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Come on, sugar, let me know. If you really need me, just come on and tell me so.
Okay, let's take advantage that we're still in front of the screen. Look at this. Remember when I was describing the whole concept of dynamic range? See how much the track first lower its volume just for it to ramp up at the very end of the track to add that moment in which they brought back the drums and everything together, and it created a huge, exciting moment. A great way to finish off a fun track. One thing that I forgot to mention is, what do I think about the sound of Rod Stewart's voice in this particular song? I love it. I think it's excellent because it has this particular dry quality to it, and also drive. I mean drive by it having a little bit of distortion, harmonic distortion. Harmonic distortion is something that comes out of the recording process. When you connect a microphone to a preamp, which is what drives up the preamp, the microphone, so the signal that the microphone is meant to be capturing actually goes through it. Okay, let's think of it as such. And depending on how loud the signal is, let's say your voice, the microphone will react differently. And depending on the kind of preamp you have connected the microphone to, you will get it to the point of it overloading, creating harmonic distortion. Most of the time is problematic if overdone, but when it's done to a certain point, you find that particularly beautiful sweet spot. Pay attention next time around you listen to this track, because his vocals have a little bit of a smidge of hair on top of it, if that makes sense to you. Also, the guitars as well have a little bit of it, basically everything in the record for that matter. And that creates a beautiful organic vibe to it. Something that modern music making is starting to realize that is missing, and little by little more people are starting to get familiar or trying to bring back that kind of sound to their mixes. Okay, but that's a conversation for another day. So all in all, fantastic. And also another thing, during the choruses, you can hear that his vocals feels slightly different. Why is that? Because there's a double. Basically speaking, he recorded the same track twice, the same section twice, and it's played back together. And the discrepancies between take 1 and take 2, even though they are playing the same melody, they create a deeper, wider sounding and much more richer in content vocal take. It's a very common trick. If you want to listen more, or you want to get a much more clear example of it, listen to any Ozzy Osbourne's record from his whole career. Most of the time he was using that technique for everything he recorded. It's a good technique, but it's a sound that is very, very in your face, if you know what I mean. So, with that being said, thanks for joining, thank you for watching. If you want to support this channel, please like the video and also leave a comment, as I said before. And well, as every single time that I meet you, I gotta remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about, and also join our Discord, link in the description below. Now, as every single time I meet you, I will tell you, damn it, I forgot the entire finishing line, so I will see you when I see you.